holidays?
Oh, that was fun.
What kind of food did you guys eat?
Well, there was more to it than just food. First of all, it was explained to me once I discovered that their Santa Claus was actually Mom and Dad. We had all these brothers and sisters, and the concept became, so, it's Christmas Eve, and since we live close to the North Pole, Santa Claus will come to us. We won't have to wait for the morning. Reason being that Dad needed to go out and take care of cattle in the morning. He didn't need to be bothered with all this other stuff. So here was the game plan. In the afternoon, actually days before, during Advent, well, we went through this big thing with Advent, and it was a very important portion to do all these different things, say all these prayers, and Advent was very important. We'd gather up pick out very special cobs of corn and different foods that each animal had its own gift that was going to be given on Christmas Eve. And I mean, all this got stored together so that on Christmas Eve, about in the afternoon, you'd start laying out all this food and delivering. Each animal got its gift of food. And that happened probably, it's dark up there. It gets dark about 4 o'clock. So by 4 o'clock, you basically had, all the animals had their food, if not handed to them in their pens so that they would eat. And the kids would go in the house and they would get in this, way back a long time ago. It was cold upstairs. So we had this big copper bathtub. It was probably about 6 feet long and about 2.5 feet high. And Mom would fill it with hot warm water and suds it up and wipe the kids down before they got into it. They didn't get into the tub dirty. It was almost like Japanese. They were clean before they got into the tub. And then they would sit in the tub in the kitchen and in front of this great big iron stove. Oh, I have to tell you about the iron stove. When I was very little, I was on the floor and I didn't have a playpen. I had a buffalo robe I was supposed to stay on, but I didn't offer to stay on the buffalo robe. And the kitten was crawling around the kitchen floor and it went under the stove. And I crawled after it and I got a hold of the kitten and as I started to back up, my butt went up in the air. And when my butt went up in the air, it came in contact with the bottom of the oven, which was on, and I had XOF branded on my ass before my mom could pull me back from underneath of that and put ice on it. And it took a long time for, I had Fox, if you look, basically Fox branded on my butt. I mean, that was as a kid. But anyway, that was how it was. You had this kitchen, the kitchen, it had a big swinging doors and all the rest of it, and everything happened in the kitchen and it was warm in there. By the time I was 10 or 12, we got central heating and the whole house was warm. But prior to that, everything was basically happening in the kitchen. But going on with Christmas. So we got all the kids into the house, and then I would go outside and I would pick up the alfalfa and I would put it outside in the yard where the kids could see it a little later and spread it out and shake it out. And then we had a deer's hoof from slaughtering a deer, and you took the deer's hoof and you made all these hoof prints. And you went out there and you got all that taken care of. And about the time my dad was finishing up his chores and coming in, and we'd go out there and we'd start, running around. I would go out there, slip outside to the basement and go out with some jingle bells and run around with the jingle bells. And my dad goes, "What's going on? What's going on? Give me my gun. Give me my gun." And my dad, "Oh, no, Daddy, don't shoot Santa. Don't shoot Santa." And so, "You think it's Santa?" You look out the window and he says, "I think I hear bells," and I'm supposed to go run around with the bells. He says, "Well, I'm going to go upstairs and take a bath." Now, the kids had to wait patiently. Well, Dad went upstairs and took a bath. Now, this is when we had the house. Prior to that, Dad went into the kitchen and took a bath, and all the kids had to go sit in this other room because Dad in the bathtub was not appropriate. But when he was finished and he had lit up his cigar and went into the room, then he would pull back the sliding doors. We had sliding doors to the living room. Oh, by the way, while we were outside feeding all the cattle and doing all this was Mom's opportunity to trim the tree. Now, the tree was brought into the house and put into a big wagon wheel, bolted into the wagon wheel so it wouldn't tip over. It was placed over a cold air vent so it would stay cold and nice and look good for a long time and not catch on fire a lot, because trees caught on fire a lot because the wiring systems weren't very good. And we didn't put the lights on much because you're always afraid of burning the house down. But anyway, the tree was put up, but there was never anything on it, and Santa had to come and trim the tree. So Mom had the chance to go in there and trim the tree and put the toys under it and do everything else while I'm out there traipsing the kids around, keeping them busy and out of her hair, and going through all this crap. This is getting you tired, I know, but this is a long story because it's such a long thing to do. Anyway, by this point in time, Dad would come downstairs and light up his cigar or his pipe, and he'd go inside and say, "What's wrong with the doors? Why are they closed?" Because the doors, dining, living room, parlor, were never closed, except on Christmas. And he'd swing them open, and he said, "Oh my goodness, Santa's been here." And then, of course, it was just, a race to it, and everybody would sit down, and he would hand out the presents and all that kind of good stuff. But meanwhile, the dogs would be barking, and then Mom would say, "Oh, did you look at the table?" And of course, on the table, the oatmeal cookies would have a couple bites out of it, and the cocoa would have been drunk. And it was such a ongoing thing, and there were so many things. I can't remember all the things to it, but it was so much fun. And the kids were just totally. And they go outside and look at the reindeer, the footprints, and the hay, and everything. And it was so special. And one Christmas, my grandpa died on Christmas. And my dad said we're going to do Christmas just the way we always did, because Grandpa always loved it. And we all sang a prayer, and God bless Grandpa, and wished him a Merry Christmas, and we opened our presents anyway. Come morning, we would, midnight mass was something that when we were older we could do, but Mom would not leave us all alone in the house with the Christmas tree and all the rest of it. So it would be early in the morning. She would go to Mass while she'd get up early and go to Mass, and then Dad would go to Mass a little later because they didn't want to drag us all out. Mind you, it could be 30 or 40 degrees below zero. I mean, it's serious cold out there. It's really bad shit. In fact, I was born on a January 11th during a freaking ice storm, or non-freaking ice storm, and there was a choice to the vet. Jessie was going to deliver her first foal, Nancy, and she came into labor before I did. So the vet delivered Nancy and then me.
Really?
Really.
You were delivered by a vet?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool.
Anyway,
Jessie was a horse?
Jessie was a big bay mare.
Oh.
Huge Belgian mare. Nancy was her first foal. Patrick was her second.